In my time designing my first mega dungeon, I have learned that they should be entire game worlds. Sort of. Fantasy worlds are full of wonder and excitement, but they are so difficult to create, especially with completely unique lore. This is floor 1 of my mega dungeon. I call it the Roots of Rhyme. It is a surface level area that is hard to reach and poses great threats to people who travel here. And though I have established some lore in short videos, I plan on maybe changing some of it to fit a more unique feel and attempt to break away from classic fantasy tropes. The map of Faerun, or even just the Sword Coast, shows a world full of discovery and history that just doesn't exist in the modern world we live in. But when you look to regions east of the Sword Coast of Faerun, the lore that you can find only exists in small paragraphs, sometimes even just a few sentences. To me, these worlds can feel muddied and empty. Then you get worlds like Farloom from Hollow Knight Silksong, which isn't based from fantasy novels nor made to be used in tabletop RPGs, but it is centrally focused on what is essentially a mega dungeon. Metroidvania games, at their core, are very similar to TTRPG mega dungeons. They're areas of game world that have a theme to them, that are linked together via one or several looping pathways with the intention to freely explore to a specific limit. That brings me into my personal project. Hello everyone! You may be here because of the dungeon shorts I have been posting daily these last few weeks. If not, welcome. I'm here to talk a bit about maps, drawing, and world design. Now, I don't claim to be experienced in any of those things. However, I'd like to share my journey in learning some more about doing them. As much as I talk about making an entire game world the mega dungeon, I have fallen into the trap I always do when making new fantasy worlds, which is making them too big. I was feeling overwhelmed with building history and lore for places that no one playing in this world would ever find or learn about. In this world, I knew that I wanted an important mega dungeon, and I knew certain lore I wanted to write into that region, but I didn't plan on making it for quite some time, until recently. A few weeks ago, I discovered the Dungeon 23 Challenge. Now, I'm somebody who loves geography, nature, and fantasy art maps, and I had found a video on YouTube posted by the Paradiso YouTube channel that was particularly awe-inspiring to me. It showed off gorgeous hand-drawn dungeon maps, and it took me back to when I was drawing world maps in high school, a time before I got into fancy mapping art softwares like Incarnate. And so, letting nostalgia win out, I ordered a notebook and decided to do this Dungeon 23 challenge using the 2026 calendar. So what is it? If you haven't heard, simply put, every day you make a dungeon room or location. A month's worth of rooms is an entire floor of the mega dungeon. And then you end up with 12 floors or levels of unique environments. Doing this was a huge decision for me, personally, since working on focused areas has never been my strong suit, but it certainly provided me with the greatest learning opportunity to get better at doing just that. So far, now that I've finished a single floor, I feel pretty good with my level of detail, but there is one thing I began noticing. I'm relying too much on established fantasy creatures and tropes. So many fantasy worlds rely on these capstone creatures like dragons, werewolves, devils, and Feywild tricksters, etc. What I have always wanted, though, was to build my own world. That includes creatures and beings that live in it. But until now, my world building has consisted of creating cool areas, maybe with unique geography, but they were filled with pre-established tropes. I want to break this cycle. This is where I need to really stretch my creativity. For the next month of this challenge, February, which I am still behind in drawing, I'm going to focus on stretching out the lore from the first floor and try to build a base for the second floor that feels unique to me, or at least more unique than I have done in the past. To do this, I have been making another longer form video staged sort of as a in-character researcher who will be creating a journal account of the flora and fauna of the dungeon. I hope that this will be a fun way to help me focus on finer details, but also try to customize my lore a bit more. As I progress with this dungeon process, I am thinking that each floor might not be directly below one another like many mega dungeons are. I would love to work the dungeon in a way that feels a little bit like a Metroidvania game. So players exploring this world don't have to experience each floor one at a time, and they can crawl deeper and deeper just to return to the town at the surface. This might cause me to create side or sub areas. I am unsure yet whether I will do those kinds of areas as part of the daily drawing challenge or not yet, but I'm sure I will come up with a decision eventually. Alright, so this is just kind of one mock-up that I've done of trying to figure out where to put dungeon rooms. I kind of decided to do this, tack it onto this video after I wrote a bunch of the other parts of what I wanted to talk about. And even watching this back, it feels too linear. Like there's not enough looping pathways, there's not enough backtracks, and I feel like I wanted to mention that sometimes when you look at it and you go, oh, but this is how I designed it, I don't want to redo it because I made it this way, I should keep it this way. I feel like the flow of redoing things and making edits so that in the end it's something that you are much happier with shouldn't be discounted, because I think it's easy to say, oh, something's good enough, but in reality there's so much more that you can do to edit it. So even though this is one example of kind of how I could lay out certain floors in terms of my planning, I definitely think I'm going to revisit it and move some things around again in the future, just so that it feels more cohesive. If you have made it this far, please consider subscribing to the channel and leave me a message in the comments section. With your support in such a short amount of time, we have already crossed 40 subscribers and are well on our way to that big 50. Actually, even closer now since I started writing the script. It has made me very happy to see so many people interested in my artwork. I hope to see you in some dungeon room shorts soon, and have a good day, everyone!